So my Havana trip, to Cuba trip, was unlike any trip I had ever taken before. I went for a 1-week photo workshop and left with an immediate desire to return. As a travel photographer, I thrive on being dropped into new places only to return with a goldmine of images that I'll cherish forever. This workshop was led by a friend of 15 years, a well-known iPhoneographer named Jack Hollingsworth. He can be found on Instagram and Facebook. He's got about 46,000 followers, and he's a travel lifestyle photographer. His goal was to sponsor a workshop in Cuba with only our iPhones and no bulky DSLRs or lenses. The iPhone was the perfect camera to capture a lot of what we did, which was the vibrant city, vibrant colors of vintage automobiles, a city steeped in history, a vibrant community thriving amidst the crumbling architectural beauty. I hope you'll see why I fell in love with Havana and why I can't wait to return, to capture more of its beauty, its cultural richness, and the spirit of its people. As soon as I learned about this workshop, I was ready and I knew I had to go. Jack introduced an itinerary to me and introduced me to a fellow named Wilbur, who I'll tell you a little bit more about, and my Airbnb. This is Wilbur's piece right here. Wilbur's a citizen of Cuba, never left the country before, became a lifelong friend of mine. He basically helped me. He helped me to understand the basics of what we'd be doing in the city and stuff. So I brought a small Lumix mirrorless camera, and I only took a couple dozen during that time. My iPhone allowed me to easily capture candid street scenes, interactions with people. My images show the resilience in people's faces that I wouldn't have got with a bulky Nikon D750. I think it would have been a little intimidating to people, and though plenty of people throughout the world bring their big DSLRs, I think that we proved that we were just fine using our iPhones. It's so easy for me to create images outside my bubble. It's more inspiring for me to go places instead of being in my backyard. I realizing we'd be storing all of our images on our iPhone. Oh, this is kind of a neat thing. I do this thing called Live View, which iPhone people know. And I caught this man dancing to somebody, but it's just kind of a simple little animation that I created. So I realized that I'd be storing all my images on an iPhone and not having any access to Wi-Fi or iCloud. I had to get started in backing up, removing data from my iPhone, which included images, deleting apps, and going from 1,700 videos down to 700 videos. And I was able to do that. It took about 3 weeks to do it, and I did have enough room to do it. I really had no problems going through customs in Cuba. It only took about 25 minutes for me to get my bag. But I was told to go into the line to declare, and I knew that I had nothing to declare. So I found a woman speaking English, and she allowed me to put my bag on a table, and in about 5 minutes she went through my bag, and I was on my way. A taxi driver basically found me, and off we went into the sunny, warm weather. His car belched exhaust as we weaved in and out of traffic. I got a glimpse of the outskirt. I'm just going to whip through this really quick. The outskirts of Cuba, of Havana, and just because that's what I do. I just can't stop taking images, and it was very simple to do it while we were driving. At one point, the roads just started narrowing as we got right into the heart of downtown Cuba, old Cuba, and he had to actually ask a taxi driver about where my Airbnb was. And we found out, again, these streets became very small and they were one way, so he had to do the right thing. It took me about a half hour to get to my Airbnb. About $35 was the whole cost to get there. Before I got out of my car, I looked at I had a picture of the outside of the Airbnb. There was no way I was going to hit the street being at the wrong place and then trying to find my Airbnb. So I had a photo. when I got there, my Airbnb was very quiet, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I walked around. This is actually the inside of my Airbnb as I walked around. As I unpacked, just shooting images around the room. I actually did a short video of when I got into my room, describing my thoughts and what I thought about it. Several of them, as you can see. That's my door with the key.
Did Nancy go with you?
No, not at all. So eventually, this woman, his name is Carol. There were only 2 of us in the whole trip. So it was Carol and myself were the only participants. And then there was Wilbur, there was a guide, and his wife Yurka. And then Jack, which you can see Jack here with Wilbur. And Jack was the guide. Jack had been to Cuba about 2 or 3 other times prior to this trip. So he was pretty, he knew exactly what the heck was going on, and it was just really great. He really coordinated it very well. So I met Wilbur and his wife Yurka, that Jack actually hired. Jack actually hired Wilbur to do his web work and some videos for Jack, even though they're long distance. And they ended up becoming our guides and our interpreters and our money managers, which I'll explain. So we hit the street that first night. That was Saturday, about 5 o'clock, 5:30, and we hit the streets shooting buildings, doors, people, and autos. I mean, I'll continue saying that throughout my talk. And our goal was to end up at this top floor of this hotel, Park Central. It's a high-end Canadian hotel right in the heart of the city, where we captured sunsets and to have some dinner and things of that nature. So, first day, February, it was a Sunday. We continued down the streets of old Havana, just taking pictures here and there. Again, I think with a large DSLR, I don't think that people would have been looking at me as easily, and I was able to snap pictures very, very quickly. So this was, you saw him earlier. This is Willie de Cuba, and he's a performer that we'll be photographing later in the week. And what he did was basically he switched hats with me and glasses, and that's a prop cigar, by the way. It's not a real cigar. So this is Sunday. As we walked around the city, it did start to rain. So we headed into a restaurant and got to know each other better and talked a little bit about more what we were going to do. I've learned that Jack photographs every meal he does, and so we made a habit of photographing all our meals. And this restaurant had croquetas. So it's the simple dish here on the bottom right, and we became very fond of it. It was a simple light snack that was very inexpensive, so it was a good reason to eat them. Jack wanted us to exchange about a $100 bill into pesos. Most banks were paying between 150 to 200 pesos per dollar, but Jack knew a guy who got us 280 pesos, and it may have been illegal, but it wasn't really. It's not enforced by the police in any way, so he was able to do that. So I literally ended up with, for $100, I got 28,000 pesos. And I got a picture here. I'm not going to go into any detail, but most of the citizens walk around with these cucks, which is a Cuban unit, and then the other one is a Cuban peso. And Cuban pesos are a lot higher denomination than the people who are using the smaller denomination pesos. I'm rarely in pictures, so I've got plenty of pictures of myself for a change. It was kind of nice. So after the rain, let me see where I am.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Beautiful.
Okay, so the rain stopped. We continued on the streets, capturing people, automobiles, and buildings. This young girl was in an ice cream store, and we are not afraid to ask people to photograph them. And either we offer them $1 or more, or a lot of times we don't have to give the people any money. I don't think we gave this young girl any money. Again, woman just sitting there. I know, it's such a great shot.
Wow.
So each night we'd search for dinners. We'd always find good food with mojitos and daiquiris. And I discovered a simple snack called croquetas, deep fried dough, which they were often out of. So this wasn't croqueta, but I talk about that in my talk a little bit. So this is just a very simple fried fish, very, very good. At the end of each meal, Yurka and Wilbur would calculate exactly how many we'd owe, how many pesos, and we'd hand them over 1,300, 3,000 pesos, and that's all. Usually under $20 was every meal. Very, very affordable the meals were. Then we walked back to our Airbnbs, and Jack would always have us test our night view, and I noticed that I was getting this streaking, and I said something to Jack. He said, "Clean your lens off." I cleaned my lens off, and I didn't get streaks. I thought that those streaks were part of the lens, and it really was not. So it worked out really well. I make a good habit now out of cleaning my lens probably every day that I clean my glasses. Again, at night we walk the streets looking for this, and it works. And I just want to say on this one that every night we have to charge our iPhones, charge our batteries, and I charge a mini light that I may need or use on occasion. Jack and I discovered as heavy professional users that literally after about 2 hours, our batteries were going down on our iPhones. 2 hours, because it was on all the time. It was hot. So basically, I plug in a very portable 20-watt portable battery that uses the USB-C cord in the new iPhone, and it charged it within 2 hours. And I maybe walk around with the cord sticking out of our pockets, and it was not a big deal. And this is I only used about 20% of the stuff that I brought.
Did you have to register with the government? Does you have a press pass there?
No, I didn't know about that, and it's a fake press pass.
I was wondering.
Yeah. So I didn't know anything about it actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with intermittent electricity?
None. On our trip, I did not. It worked out pretty good. Okay, so most of the time we spent in old Havana between the Malecon, which is a broad esplanade seawall 8 kilometers along the coast, and the El Prado, which is the road in front of the Capitol. I captured everything that caught my eye and presented me a pleasing composition. So I started reviewing 6,000. I took 6,000 images on my iPhone while I was there. I realized I could have taken even more, believe it or not, after I got back, and I probably could have taken more and should have taken more. So this first day, we ended up, this is in Prado Street, which is where my Airbnb is on. And this part right here is called the.
It's that little cathedral, isn't it?
It is the church on. It's in the Plaza de la Cathedral.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay. Cool. So the first day, the first part of it, I took pictures on the inside, and then Wilbur asked if we wanted to go up the bell tower, and I said definitely. He offhandedly said, "Don't ring the bell," which I pretty much knew that I wasn't going to. But literally within a minute after that, these two Asian girls came up behind me, and she went for the bell. And I go, "No, don't do that." So I literally stopped her from ringing the bell. Just crazy.
Wow.
So up in this tower, I caught these great images of the bell tower, and I did work on these. I mean, it's been since I returned on February 24th, and just had a busy time the last couple of months, keeping me busy. But I've been spending some time editing my work. But we got these great images out toward the Malecon and in Old Havana, just from that angle, and that was really great. So Jack has experience in working with performers, and these are people who dress in traditional garb and sit on the streets, and tourists come up and photograph them. And this lady here, in fact, I found this today. Her name is Lady Senora Havana, and she sits out in front of just outside the church in this plaza. And each of us take turns taking her picture. And believe it or not, she's an 80-year-old woman. She gets $5 each from us. So in 15 minutes, she made 4,000 pesos. Now, most people are making less than 100 pesos a month.
Even that.
So these people are really highly paid, and it's really kind of fun to do it. And I'm using the portrait lens in my camera so that I can use depth of field to put the background out of focus intentionally. So we finished with her, and we met another fella down the block, and we always, I mean, look at the coordination of the colors. It's great. And I've got in the photo again, which I'm pleased because people actually see me at work.
He coordinates with her.
Just great. Then we went further down the street, and in this park were three ladies brightly appointed, and we selected this lady to come with us, and we saw this taxi about 3 minutes from where these ladies were, and we had her to come down the street, and we photographed her. And even with my iPhone, it's a Pro Max, it's an iPhone 15 Pro Max, it did a great job in this bright sunlight in the portrait mode.
And those, that's called an abanico, which is the
Oh,
thing.
okay.
And they're very traditional.
Which is wearing?
See the
Oh, yeah, the fan.
It's called abanico.
Okay.
And they're hand painted.
Wow, okay. So, yeah, so a little retouching is done in these images, but I do plan to. So most of my images are captured with the main lens. So these are the lenses in the iPhone, and the 24 millimeter is the main lens. And if you use the main lens in an iPhone, you get a 48 megapixel sensor, which produces about a 40 to over 100 megabyte file with that lens. And what you're seeing here is under the main camera, it's a 35 megapixel capture, and it's a 70 megabyte file.
Wow.
That's just huge. I mean, most of us can't handle that. You can't email that. You can't edit it in the Photos app in the iPhone, which is, you know, a good thing. These are most of the iPhones that we walked around with the city with. Remember, there were about 5 or 6 of us.
You shot it all in RAW?
Not everything. I don't think portrait is raw, so you don't get most of it. I did get in raw. I mean, where it was important, I definitely shot in raw. Yes. You have to avoid the zoom, the fake zoom, because then you're you're doing a digital zoom, and that creates, it gives you, you don't use all the pixels when you create a digital zoom as opposed to an actual physical zoom on the lens. Okay. Okay, I'm showing here that I like using this portrait lens, besides on portraits, to capture anything that's kind of in just forgot my word, leading lines. So anytime I had these leading line compositions, I would go to my portrait lens because I thought it was just really, really great to do.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you. Let me see, I just want to catch up. So after Lady Sonora, we headed to the new area known as the Plaza Vieja. It's a very popular area where there's restaurants and shops. We tend to sit and eat snacks or lunches most of the time, but I'm not like that. I like to get up and walk around. So I got up and walked around. I captured musicians, street scenes in this Plaza Vieja. These are musicians waiting to go on. And here's one going live, and this is inside the restaurant where we were eating. And then I took my time and I went to a grocery store that was really sparsely stocked. And then I went down to the corner, and wow, was I amazed! Oops, one more. To find this unique, this amazing vintage purple Pontiac, and this colorful vehicle on this narrow street with these yellow and blue shutters.
That's frightening.
I immediately went to my wide-angle lens and took these images. And this is the one that I submitted to the Bacchus Museum, and I think it made it in, and also to an art show that I'm in with the Martin Artists Guild. And this is definitely one of my top 10 favorite images. So I returned to the table to eat a slice of pizza, and I did in fact taste Wilbur's sardine pizza, which I liked. And then another great find. I often discover these special images hidden on ordinary streets. This one I call Cuba Street Purple Shutters, and this one I call Blue Door on Cuba Street. And I want to show you, this is the original image, and I added saturation to it. And this is the original image of that one. And then again, I added saturation to it. My style is a very colorful, highly contrasty, very colorful image. Probably from the days of shooting all that black and white, I decided we live in a colorful world and I want to shoot as much color as possible. Next, we're walking down the street and this man welcomes us into this hotel. And we went in and we discovered this amazing artwork on the walls, an amazing lobby, and I created this pano of our group. And then they've got this really beautiful skylight. And then Jack asked if we wanted to go to the top floor and photograph the buildings in the area. Admittedly, I didn't find it as interesting because, I mean, there were just blank buildings. From the church tower, I got much better images, so I wasn't as anxious to that. And then I discovered this gazebo off in a corner. And I took my time and I walked over to it and I walked inside, and all of a sudden, I discovered this amazing angel. And I just think it's the most amazing composition.
That is gorgeous.
And this is my final image that I also submitted to the Bacchus, and it was definitely accepted. I'm pleased to say it.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. So we headed, where did we go? Every night we head to another hotel. This one was called, it was the main hotel called Hotel Park Plaza, and it's a Canadian-owned hotel. Obviously, I'm just shooting out over the city. Isn't that great?
Wow.
And we'd shoot sunsets and drink daiquiris and mojitos and watch the sunset. So at one point, Wilbur set up for a time lapse, and Carol, Jack, and I headed across the street to this Floridita, which is where Ernest Hemingway hung out and drank daiquiris. But we found it too loud and not a lot of places to stay. I took one picture there. We left. We realized that we didn't have a phone to contact Wilbur. So I said, don't worry about it. The restaurant we're going to, Marisol, will make a phone call for us. She'll gladly invite him over. And of course, he did. She did. So what did I do? I ordered a margarita. It took them 10 minutes to make me a margarita. I saw it was green at one point, and then they turned around and gave me this yellow concoction, which I thought was good anyways. It wasn't a margarita, but it was edible and I enjoyed it. And we found some croquettes again, and we had a great time. And we had a great time with these ladies, and they've literally become lifelong friends of mine as well. We tipped them and hugged them and went off to our Airbnbs. Next morning, Carol and I went to this Cafe Suiza, where we had eggs, bacon, and eggs, ham, and cheese. And admittedly, we went the next day, and they couldn't get bacon and cheese the next day. There's definitely problems with food and transportation and medicine in Cuba right now.
And you get the best as a tourist because the
I bet.
people who live
Oh,
there
yeah.
are very hungry.
Yeah, the food was really good. I had no complaints about most of them, except for my Airbnb, admittedly. Next, what did we do? Oh yes, so we're walking down this street called La Perella, and we discovered these umbrellas on the top between these buildings. And though they were opaque, I photographed them anyways. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting down in my chair, having a drink, and working on my iPhone and Snapseed, and I created this one.
Beautiful.
And I said, I can do better than that. So I brought it into Photoshop, and I copied this orange umbrella, put it up top, and definitely played with some saturation, and I created this image. And and I like it. I do it for myself. It's because I like to do it. Let's see. Next we went to the main city, the main drag again in Havana. This is where all these cars park and try to get riders to go on these trips with them, and they're just amazing. The only thing I didn't like about it was I don't always like my backgrounds, but I took 300-400 images of automobiles, so I've got some time to work on them further. I've got one example here of that I did do.
Now, are these cars you can rent or?
No, you definitely, there's a driver that drives you around. Yeah.
Chauffeur.
Correct. So here's one example. This is from the roof of the hotel. So here's one example I took into Photoshop. So you see that lamp right there? So I went into Photoshop and got rid of it. So as time goes on, I'll have more time to spend with these images, and I plan to do that. Next, after the city, we hopped in these little taxis, and we went to the harbor. So we were going to go across the harbor to a place called either Regla or Juana Bocoa, and it's basically small. It's a residential suburb, and we walked around. First thing we did was we went into a church. I didn't find it as interesting, so I went outside and started taking pictures outside, which is where I captured this image. Continued walking down the street, and all of a sudden, it was my turn to photograph this fella in red. He was a garlic salesman, and his buddies were there, and I took my time and photographed him. And when I was done, I went into my pocket to pull out a dollar bill, and I had a $5 bill. And I gave him the $5 bill, and he was ecstatic. That was 1,000 pesos that I gave this guy. So I enjoyed the photo. You know, that's not a lot of money for me, and so it was just fine. I was really pleased that I could give this to this fella. And this image was also included in the Bacchus. So next, a little bit further down the way, I see this interesting hallway, alleyway, and I went up to it and got nice and close. And all of a sudden, this little boy started walking down. He walked down the whole way from me, and I got this amazing image that I call cobalt blue alleyway. And I think it also made it into the Bacchus also. Continued capturing images in Regla on the streets, and some of me. And this other girl is actually Yurka and Wilbur's daughter, Erica. So after that, we went back to Old Havana, walked around some more. Oh, this image I thought was very, very cool. Very simple composition. Same with this one. I think I like that kind of photography. So we returned to Old Havana and started capturing more street scenes. And then I discovered this broken heart. And the story is that this man lost his wife, and he painted it off, and this is what's left. And I think I'm not sure if I entered that one into the back or at all, but I do like it very much. Continue walking. Let's see where I'm at here. So again, it's getting late, so we go back to the roof of another hotel for another. This is called the Paseo del Prado. We took images from the roof all around. I shot videos and stills, and then we started photographing our food and each other. This is amazing, a charcuterie tray that was just great. And again, more images. I'm kind of rushing through it so we can get done here. Oh, and then this is this great daiquiri that I photographed, and just a couple weeks ago I created that. And again, it's fun. I love this. It's for me. If other people like it, it's good. So then we went across the street to a really kind of a trendy place where we had this great fish and with beans and rice that was very, very good, and walked back to our Airbnbs and continued taking pictures on the streets. Next day, we came across this really amazing art gallery, and some of those paintings were like $100 American, very, very well priced. Continued on along. This day we went to a boxing club. This man was teaching these young people boxing. I did shoot a video. I won't show you that. Took some pictures there. There's my gang. Yes, Carol did bring her big DSLR. She chose to do that, and that was okay. It wasn't a requirement. It was just a suggestion. So that's why she's got hers. So we crossed. So Jack says we're going to go to a church, and I didn't know where it was. So I ducked into this church across the street, and when I came out, I couldn't find my group. So I'm walking down the street for about an hour, not knowing that they were right next door to me. So I walked down the street, capturing more images of people. This guy is sharpening knives and things. And then this poor emaciated girl looked like she was beaten up, was following me, and I felt pretty sorry for her, and I photographed her and I gave her $5. Continued on our way, decided to head back to this main plaza in the newer area of Havana. Let's see. And Oh, and so they sat down for lunch again, and I got up and walked around. I discovered this hotel with these great copper monk figures, and you can see it in the middle of the courtyard there. I thought that was really cool, and another angle. And I photographed a lot of staircases. I came back to my group. Oh, actually not yet. This is another art gallery that was an open courtyard in the back that I scoped out for the next day. There I am against a mural. And then we photographed another performer against this great background. Just really great colors. And then we photographed Willie de Cuba. So this guy's really well known. He's a real character, and I photographed him, and we photographed him in all different ways, and we each took turns. And again, he made 4,000 pesos with us in 15 minutes, not begrudging him. And then all of a sudden, I swear, there were people everywhere, and all of a sudden you can see some of the shadows, and this mariachi band comes into my shot, and it was just made this perfect scene for me, and I photographed them a few times as well. So that was very, very cool. Let's see. Oh, and then next we went back to this hotel, and I was able to make my own time lapse that evening. Okay. Next day, fifth day. So Jack wanted us to go off on our own on this Thursday, and Carol and I walked the streets, photographing all different types of things. I love shooting courtyards and things like that. He was actually a performer that I photographed from the back. I didn't realize it at first. And then this is like actually a statue donated by France, the UK, in commemorance of Princess Diana's death that he gave to Cuba.
It looks like Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Oh, really? And then we discovered this great mural on the wall, and this man who kept following us, and eventually he started asking for money, and I went, no, no. And I felt bad about that. I mean, next time I go to Cuba, I'm going to have a lot more money to give out. So Carol sat down and had a lemonade, and I couldn't do that. I hit the streets. I found this great Cadillac against this. I was walking around. I went to this next door to this hotel where these leading lines were, and I discovered this character. Now listen to this. I hope it works. No? Okay. Yeah, it's not going to play. So he's playing this song that I can't get out of my head now. But he was great. I want to go to the point where I did a little work with it. I've got a background in videography, so I knew just not to stand there, kind of make it a little animated. So he was kind of fun to photograph. Next door to this hotel was this fort that we photographed the outside of this fort, and we asked the lady how much it was, and she gave us in pesos and dollars. I asked her for some change. She said she couldn't do it. I went to the corner of where the entrance to this museum starts, and I got this great photo. And as I was leaving, she actually gave me 5 singles and a $5 bill, and I really thanked her for doing that. And it was very, very nice of her to give me that change. It's called the Castle of Royal Force. So after the fort, we went down the block a little further, and we discovered this place called the Society of Engineering and Architecture of Cuba. And in the back, and I photographed these different items inside of it. In the back, these men were working on boats. This man he lost his wife. Her name was Carmen. Later that day, we went back to the pirate restaurant where I was smoking my cohiba, and then Carol and I had dinner that night back at the Oro. Last day, we got together again. They didn't have the ham and cheese. Great portrait of this man. Then we went to this great street. There were many artists everywhere. Can I give him a couple more minutes?
Sure.
Almost done. We met this fella. Let me tell you, his name is Luis Angel Diguez. A really talented artist. We spoke for a while with him, learned a lot about him and his art. Actually, I think I posted it. He friended me. We're friends on Instagram. just an amazing guy. And I actually photographed one of his murals and actually put it on, I sell greeting cards in a gallery, and I actually grabbed that one and put it on a greeting card, and I intend to give him any money that I make from sales. So after that, Yurka asked if we wanted to go on a ride on one of these cars. So we got in this car, and we took a 1-hour ride, and they take everybody to the government cigar factory. And you go inside, and Yurka was telling me I can't photograph in the factory. So I started photographing in the shop. In the meantime, I was ignoring the sign on the wall saying no photography, but this man scolded me eventually. So then we headed back to this area where there were 50 or 60 of these vehicles again, where they bring all of us visitors to this lot to photograph these vehicles, and it was great. I walked around and I shot 50, 60 images.
Yes, it's a Revolutionary Plaza.
Okay, right. That's exactly, yeah. I'm kind of rushing through. So we went back to another hotel, the Kapinski, and I was able to get some great shots off this building, which are really, really great views. And there's that's the area we were down below from us. And another shot of me. More shots of the cars. And then Wilbur and I went to this museum in commemoration of Castro's Bay of Pigs revolution. And when we were done, I noticed this amazing flag across the way. It's a government building, and I took some great pictures of this flag. We did our last performer. She was very animated, really was great to work with.
Great.
I'm sorry?
She looks great.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I did do a little retouching with her, but not too much. That was it. We caught a little kid, gave him a couple dollars. We were able to get this great shot of us in front of this Che mural, this fella, more people on the streets. And then we went back to our favorite restaurant for that great fish and, that was the dessert, fish and rice and beans, and this time a dessert. And and at the end of the meal, I owed 1,500 pesos, and I didn't have it. So they hemmed and hawed, and they say, "You owe Carol $5." I gave her $5, and I was even. I was out of pesos. I spent $150 the whole week. That was it.
And you worked at it too.
Yeah, I didn't.
You really had to work at it.
They're counting out the cash, and so basically, I want to show you this last guy. This fella I thought was really great. He was outside of a bodega. He was very optimistic and about Cuba's future, and that was really, really great. So the last day we went back to our favorite restaurant again and said bye to the group, and I can tell you that my drive back to the airport, I felt very satisfied. I hope that Jack would need me in November. They're hoping that we'll have about 12 people going in November again. I'm hoping that he'll need me. I'm done. And it was really, I believe I captured Havana. I believe it was a complex layer of rich history. This will be my largest photo project ever. It was a very fulfilling experience, and all done with my iPhone. And the people are very kind and really great, in great need. So that's it. Thank you very much.
All right.